We can get started. I thought we'd do some quick intros first. We'll go down the line. I can start with myself. I'm Addie Harris. I'm the CEO of HAVENTURE. I'm also on the board or advise several companies in the robotics, medical technology, medical device space. I've got a long history in the space. Prior to being at HAVENTURE, I was at J&J. I built and developed out the team that launched the VELYS orthopedic robotics solution. Prior to that, I had started a company called Cardion Robotics, which was sold to Stryker, and then various companies in and outside of the medical device space, going back the rest of my career. So happy to be here today, really excited about this topic, and I'll pass it on to Stuart.
Good afternoon, Stuart Simpson. I'm CEO of Think Surgical, which is an orthopedic robotics company. Prior to that, I had a very long career at Stryker, where I was involved in the acquisition of Mako back in 2013 and ran the joint replacement and robotics business there through until the end of 2019.
Awesome. Good afternoon. Christopher Campbell. I currently work at J&J, focused on platform strategy in our digital business and business innovation, with a focus in the orthopedic segment. I have a background of engineering. I've owned a company outside of medical and then worked inside of a Swiss company and then came to J&J. Outside of my J&J work, I partner with a lot of startups as well and see the industry grow. Glad to be on the panel.
Good afternoon. I'm Clement Vidal. I'm from eCential Robotics from France. We do robotics platform for bone surgery, orthopedic surgery, and we developed a platform which aims to be implant agnostic. Prior to that, well, I have an engineering background. I've been in the surgical robotic fields for almost forever in soft tissue surgery and bone surgery. And actually, just a little bit of myself, my father was an eye surgeon. And when I was a child, I saw the emergence and the growth of phacoemulsification and the folded implants and everything. And that was super exciting as a child. And now I'm part of the surgical robotics revolution, I think. And that's super exciting as well.
Hello, I'm Chris Prentice. I'm with LEM Surgical out of Switzerland. We're an orthopedic spine robotic system. My background pedigree is prior to LEM, I was the CEO of Harmonic Bionics. Prior to that, CEO of Mazor Robotics. Prior to that, Intuitive Surgical, and then started my career with J&J. So I've been about 24 years, mostly in robotics.
Well, fantastic. I mean, I think you can see and hear from this panel, we've got just an absolute depth and breadth of experience, and so it should be really exciting today. So for companies big and small, I think we're seeing the ASC market, kind of depends where you are in the world with what it's called, but the outpatient surgery market, the day patient surgery market, is rapidly growing. It's a market that has existed for several decades. It's interesting because I had a slide I made close to 12 years ago that I looked at recently, and I'm like, it's just that the numbers are bigger. It's the same message. But I think what we're seeing, especially with robotic surgery, is robotic surgery has really taken off. It's here to stay. And we're now seeing, okay, robots are commonplace in the ORs and your big hospitals. But as this market of smaller hospitals, of more efficient centers grow, how do robotics fit into that space? And hopefully we're going to get some good answers and some robust discussion here today. So to start it out, actually, Stuart, I want to go to a little bit of what you discussed today in your presentation on Think Surgical. I loved your slide that showed the sneakers. Because I got to think how many sneakers I have in my closet and how I can justify those to my husband now. But I think a great question is, you pointed out that Think Surgical is a robotics company, not an implant company, and how important is it for robotic systems to really be specialized, and how does Think approach that ASC market in that way?
Yeah. So I think since robots came into orthopedic surgery or into joint replacement, the customer, and when I say customer, I mean the physician, start there, has been presented with a trade-off decision. They either have to choose the right robot that they believe is best or the right implant that they believe is best, because they're all closed systems. Each robot only operates with the implant from that particular manufacturer. And our view is that you shouldn't have to make those trade-off decisions, that you should be able to independently choose the right technology and the right implant for all your patients, or even the right implant for each individual patient. And as the procedures move into the outpatient setting, I think that that becomes even more true, because outpatient surgery centers are typically owned by a consortium of physicians who have all got a small interest, and none of them have the same preference for implants. So a technology that allows them all to do their own thing makes sense from an economic perspective and a clinical perspective, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, thank you. Any other follow-on comments to that? No? Okay, so Chris, question for you. You're currently at one of the biggies and one of the greats. What do you think are one or two of the most important factors for a med tech company, whether they're big or whether they're small, and maybe you're looking to acquire a partner to win in the ASC in the next 5 years? Yeah, everyone cozy up to Chris here.
Yeah. So the question basically, what's going to help them win in the market? Yeah. I think, ASCs, not all, maybe we'll get to it, but not all ASCs are the same, right? Yeah. We've seen, I would say, from when ASCs started, an evolution of the structure of ASCs, and many of us have been in the industry have seen this evolution, but it does change how we talk about ASCs. You have, physicians-owned, independently owned ASCs, and you have outpatient centers that typically are owned by hospitals. So how you tackle those, I think, differ. But in principle, I think two things are important. I think one is ASCs are efficient financial institutions aimed at bringing patients in, giving them excellent service, but sending them out the door in the same day. That's the principle. So I think to win, a partnership with the finance side of an ASC is really important. Yes, you need clinical efficacy for sure, but making sure you meet the demand of the finance side is really important. And then I also think, especially in digital, it's fast and it's dynamic. And so design agility is really important in the solutions, because I think the market will continue to evolve and we have to evolve with the market.
Fantastic. A question for you, Clement. How would you say the surgical robotics industry, eCential in particular, has approached this ASC market, and how are you seeing the company and the technology need to evolve?
Well, I think surgical robotics, and I think we'll all agree, is or will become a standard of care. I'm talking about bone surgery, orthopedics. It's already the case for soft surgery with Da Vinci in many different applications, and the trend is there for orthopedics as well, definitely. Nevertheless, I'm more an expert of surgical robotics than ASCs, and as Chris mentioned, there are a lot of different types of ASCs, but still I see some challenges right now in the adoption of surgical robotics and surgical robots in ASCs. First of all, the ASC will not be specific to one indication. Robots are most of the time are specific to one indication. They do only knee, or they do only spine, or whatever. And whereas ASCs, they would do, I don't know, like shoulder and sports medicine, and some may do, hips and knees, and some of the spine, or whatever. And they cannot afford to have a single robot for each of those indications. Also, I guess to your point, right now, most of the solutions are dedicated to an implant, like specific to an implant manufacturer. And whereas the surgeons, they even in ASC, even the smaller, they may come from different trainings, using different implants. They may want to choose as well, to Stuart's point. And again, ASCs, they cannot afford like a robot A for surgeon A for implant A, and then robot B for surgeon B for implant B, right? So what our view on that is, we at eCential, we want to develop a platform, a surgical platform, that will host many apps for multiple implants, but also several surgical indications across orthopedics. And it is a very ambitious
yeah, that's a big one there.
Yeah, definitely. So to do so, we are developing a truly open model. And by open, I mean, the traditional, we develop on behalf of, we support development of our implants partner, app specific to their implants. By the way, saving them, the cost and the burden of a robotic development program. But we go beyond that, and what we want to do is, and what we are doing actually, is offering a development kit and environment, including tools, framework, technical, regulatory, for third party to develop their own application dedicated to a surgical indication, to be hosted and to be used on our platform. Okay,
yeah, fantastic.
And we provide all the tools for that. And I think that for us, it's the only way to foster that ecosystem and to reach our goal of a truly cross-application surgical platform, at least in orthopedics, right? And when we get there, I think we will really support transition toward ASCs, but also will really support healthcare providers and ultimately patients.
Yeah, thank you so much. Coming to you, Chris, and I think really nicely leading into that. So all robots are not created equal, and I think we're hearing about, two different variations of open robotic systems. But how would you comment on ASCs? Are all ASCs created equal? Like we say the term, but, what does it really mean, in the US and also worldwide?
Yeah, so Chris mentioned it, that no, they're not created equal. Now, they have the same mission as trying to do procedures in an outpatient basis. But when you really got to deconstruct the ASC, because you can't say, I just have an ASC strategy. Well, is it HCA? They own a whole lot of ASCs, and they're also a hospital company. You better be careful of how you deal with one arm and the other. They're going to talk. You can't have a lower price strategy in one for the same equipment as a hospital. So you have to be careful there. Tenet is the same. Additionally, we've mentioned there's specialization in ASCs. There's a lot that are very specialized in, eye surgery. There's orthopedic, of course. So those are, you take a look at each one, whatever your equipment has going forward. What kind of governance and management is involved? Is it truly owned by a larger entity like an HCA or a Tenet, or is it managed by one of the very large management companies that has 1,000 ASCs under them? So while that ASC may be independent, the management is not necessarily. They have mass and scale on a 1,000 case level. So, what I would caution anybody is when we look at ASCs as a strategy, I don't say here's our ASC strategy. It's like, that's kind of like saying I have a hospital strategy, and not saying that there's a rural critical access hospital versus an academic center that has a level 1 trauma. You're going to have to take a look at that. Some ASCs will want to go that natural, historical of they don't want to own anything. They want to minimize what they own. It's a clean room and go. Others are buying, and so that's what you have to look at. I just saw a recent story. I think it's Tallahassee Orthopedic just built a whole new ASC center, and in their announcement of building the center, they bought a Zimmer Rosa, they bought a Mako, and they bought a O-arm and Stealth Station.
And over here, Stuart's cringing. I mean, just think of the size of the storage closet you need.
Yeah, and that might be, not every ASC is like that.
Right,
that's the thing.
right, they don't all have that
But there are going to be
budget.
some that are almost like hospitals.
Yeah.
And they have that mass and scale. They have those large orthopedic practices with 40, 50, 60 surgeons behind it. They can pull their money and they can buy equipment.
Right. So that nicely leads into an area I'm passionate about, and I'm going to ask Stuart here a question on, which is business models. How does your business model change? I mean, not all ASCs are the same. I think whether you're approaching the ASC or a large hospital system, the business model is something really important. And I think what we're seeing is the business model of the really big companies. If we give you a piece of equipment, quote unquote, for free, in exchange, you have to buy our implants, for a long time. That is being challenged more and more. So how is Think approaching that? And what are your views on where there's business model innovation in this space?
Yeah, I have to take some accountability here.
You're the original creator of the business model.
In 2013, when Stryker acquired Mako, the first thing we did was make it a closed system. We'd spent $1.65 billion and wanted to recover that investment through market share. And the only way to do that was to use the device to leverage implant market share. And you got to know that that's where the money is for these big companies, because implants are 80% gross margin approximately. They are very, very lucrative businesses. But which is okay when you're a first mover, and that first mover advantage paid off. Stryker picked up 10 points of knee market share in the US. But when the other companies come along and they're offering the exact same thing, my robot in return for implant volume, it doesn't work anymore, and the customer's becoming fatigued. Doesn't matter whether they're ASC customers or hospital customers, they're becoming fatigued by that. They realize that there's no such thing as a free robot. A free robot, as long as you buy $5 million worth of implants for the next 5 years, and by the way, the price is fixed, is not a free robot. So we're increasingly finding that customers are looking to us to try and shake things up a little bit and offer an implant agnostic platform. And you know what? They are willing to pay for a robot that is implant agnostic because they recognize the value in being able to satisfy multiple different physician preferences with one piece of equipment, and the healthy dynamics in terms of competition and innovation that stimulates amongst the implant companies competing for that business. So they see it as an economic win, and they see it as a physician preference win. So I think that the future is going to be back to paying for your robot and expecting it to do exactly what you bought it to do, and buying your consumables separately.
Can I add one
Yeah,
thing to the
go
business
for
model
it.
side? So I agree. I think in terms of the desire to have the system being able to do multiple pathology procedures, be able to leverage it in multiple ways, I think that theme is going to be consistent on the financial side. I do think diversifying revenue beyond just capital and disposable is another thing as we think about robotics and digital surgery too. I think the rise of software, you mentioned, software apps. I think that's increasing part of the medtech community of digital transformation in robotics is how can we leverage software? There's a lot of other analogous industries we can look towards where software revenue becomes a dominant player in the market, especially with the rise of deep learning, and of course we'll mention AI, but there's lots behind what AI is.
Oh, come on. I was going to ask you an AI question.
Yeah, but yeah,
He's doing it. Go for it.
All that to say, I think we also need to expand our view of revenue opportunities. Service is really important. ASCs are running very tight ships, so there are opportunities in the market to offer targeted new offerings, generate new revenue that really supports the ASC
Service
as well.
training, yeah.
Correct.
I'm actually going to hop back to Chris. I'm going to ask a question. Given your background at Intuitive and also some of these big companies, typically robotic devices or capital devices are depreciated over 5 years. So what happens after 5 years? Is that an opportunity for new technology to come in? And what happens to these devices? Is there an opportunity potentially for what our other Chris here mentioned in terms of additional software service training to be done on those older devices?
Yeah, it's definitely a potential. We'll see what happens in the coming 2 years here with Da Vinci's launch. Because their XI is still a viable entity. They've said they're going to keep it going. We'll see if they put the 7-year letter of obsolescence in, but that's still 7 years.
Right.
So, if you're a hospital system and you want to upgrade to the new one, the 5, and then what do you do with all the other XIs?
Right.
Well, if they're already depreciated, could you roll them over to your ASC? Maybe, maybe not. You have to look at the economics of it because it's not just the acquisition of the equipment itself. You have to look at it on a per case basis. What's the actual instrument cost per case? What's
the continued service on that device.
What's the service and so forth. But with the acuity of the cases that go into an ASC, especially in special general surgery, they're lesser. So you can't apply that classic, their average instrument cost is $1,400 to $2,000. Well, not necessarily for lap choles. It's like $700. That might fit. So it's going to be on a case-by-case instance. So a facility that has a fleet of robots and they're able to upgrade to the others, they may, apply them like an HCA to their ASCs. You don't know.
Right.
But it's very
HCA
feasible.
may decide, some of our depreciated equipment is going to go over into this center that maybe isn't generating enough revenue to justify new equipment.
Yep.
Okay, really interesting. And then Clement, coming back to you, I would say another buzzword or hot piece of technology we're often hearing about, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. How does that compare to robots? Do they play nice together? Is AR, MR, VR, is it going to replace robotics? How do you see those two fitting together? Or not?
Well, there are definitely some opportunities for AR, VR. I guess especially in ASCs. Nevertheless, I strongly believe in robots. I believe in the surgical robotics revolution I mentioned, and I think robots will, as I mentioned, are or will become the standard of care and will be better. And there are several reasons for that. First of all, robots are more precise than navigation. It's been widely proven for spine surgery and demonstrated. And AR or VR, at the end of the day, they are navigation, right? It's fancy navigation, but they are navigation. And for a surgeon, when he or she invests in a technology, it's not only money. It's also time. It's training. It's logistics. It's changing the habits and everything. It's a personal investment, and I believe they will want to go for the best technology available. And I believe it's robotics. Robotics can be also very versatile, as I mentioned. I mean, a robot's arm can carry a burr, a saw, a guide, and so open up. It's platformable, basically. And as we discussed, it's I believe what ASC would need eventually. Now there is a challenge with economics, obviously, and I agree with Stuart. The business model have to evolve. I can't agree more than I think the volume discount model has their own limits, even if they are attractive. We know also they eliminate the ability to negotiate in the long run. But we need to find some good and cost-effective business model for smaller centers as well. Probably reducing capex as we discussed, but maybe not only, and maybe we haven't found them yet. But I think that there is room for this.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, maybe last thing is that I believe, and even most importantly, the patients they want robots. They want surgical robots. Not only in orthopedics. I mean, in soft surgery, we know that Intuitive Surgical has done a terrific job over the last 20 years in demonstrating the effectiveness and the benefits of surgical robots. And now the patient, they want the best for themselves, and they want robots, and I think they're right about it.
And I say, Stuart, do you have a comment here?
Yeah, I think as innovators, strategics, or investors, there's a couple of fundamental questions that you need to ask yourself. Enabling technology of some kind is part of surgery's future. It absolutely is. And I don't think that the label robotics or technology B necessarily is specific enough. There's a tendency in orthopedics, at least, to have a device and then try and make it do as many things as possible. And often you're reaching outside the performance envelope of that device because you want to have multiple applications. I happen to believe that there is going to be one technology that wins out as the best technology for knee replacement, another technology that will be better or best for spine, another technology that will be better or best for hip or shoulder and other applications. So I would encourage you to be careful about thinking technology first, expand across as many applications as possible. I think you have to match the technology and the surgery. And I think that there's a very clear role for augmented reality technology in difficult to see anatomy, such as spine, potentially shoulder, potentially hip, where the anatomy is open and visible, such as a knee replacement. You don't need augmented reality. You can see the real thing. You need robotic technology for precision. So just a personal watch out to not think that I have a technology, let's try and make it do as many things as possible. Play to your strengths.
Fantastic. Any final comments from the panel here before we wrap up? Okay.
Maybe just one comment. I did think a little bit to this point of being careful to box our thinking in to robots have to have a big arm. I think the evolution of technology, we see it in general surgery, robotics, is constantly evolving the form factor and how it delivers. And that's exciting to me. What the robots we have today will not be the robots we have in 5 to 10 years, and how they will look in the interface. And it's really exciting to see how it evolves.
Yeah, exciting topic, and I think we couldn't have had a better panel today. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.